Welcome, guys, to the first ever episode of Gritsville, USA. I am the new host for the Michigan Sports Show. My name is Christian Harvey. We got a lot to tackle on the first night. We're going to talk Lions, obviously, biggest, hottest ticket in town that we got, which is very surprising. Years and years on end, it's always been the other way around. We're also going to be talking based on the Red Wings, the Tigers, Pistons. Got a little bit of Michigan State talk in there. I'm going to be sharing all the gripes I currently have with the current ownership, especially in regards to the Red Wings and the Tigers. Pistons, a little bit more on a positive note. But man, I am super excited to start showing you guys what we are all about out here in Michigan. Can't wait. Welcome to Gritsville, USA.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, eSports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, guys. Once again, welcome to Gritsville, USA, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, my name is Christian Harvey. Again, super excited. Shout out to Larry for giving me this opportunity to lead the Detroit and the Michigan Sports Show. A little bit about myself, just so you guys can get to know me. Been a sports fan my whole life. It has been my number one passion from... I can't even remember. I was actually, fun fact, I was born a Denver fan. I was born out in Colorado, up in Longmont. For those who are aware of where Longmont, Colorado is, I was born a Denver Broncos fan, Colorado Avalanche. But when I was about 4 or 5 years old, moved out to Michigan. And ever since then, the rest has been history. I have been fortunate, or I should say cursed, with growing up with being a Lions fan of the past. More on that in a second. But growing up with the glory days with the Red Wings, growing up with the go-to-work Pistons, the Tigers with Verlander, Cabrera, I love sports. I can't say it enough. I'm not trying to get all sappy or everything with it, but it has been my greatest passion. Once again, my name is Christian Harvey. You can follow me here at Gritsville _IESR over on X, or at C_Alexander_97, also on X as well. Now, what we're going to be starting off with, again, the talk of the town. We will be discussing your Detroit Lions. Now, for those who have been aware, the Lions right now are on an absolute tear, especially with this past Sunday, where they just absolutely dismantled and took away the manhood of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, on Sundays, I work in retail. Can't always watch the games. I'm very fortunate enough, though, to where I work in a men's shoe store where we have the TVs on. I had the Lions game, and I wasn't even worried about this past Sunday's game. I was just kind of, you know what? I'm going to sell. It's holiday season. I'm going to do my thing. I'm not even worried about it. I remember at first I saw, okay, cool. It's 14-3, maybe they'll let off the gas pedal. Last time I checked, it was 28-6. And I'm like, okay. So this continues the current trend of what we have going on with the Detroit Lions, where they are just taking away the manhood of different teams, Tennessee being one of them, the Dallas Cowboys being my favorite one, that they have just absolutely emasculated. And, this past Sunday's game came off of last Sunday's game against Houston, which, in my opinion, and I wish I would have started the show last week because I would have loved to have gone more into the Houston game, but that game was the greatest Lions win I have ever watched. And I'm so happy it was on prime time, because I love that everybody was going back into the Lions are who we thought they were. They're frauds. Jared Goff is throwing for 5 interceptions. They got nothing going on. And then halftime happened. And then literally the embodiment of this team, Dan Campbell, is literally speaking, we got to get a turnover. And right at that second, what does Carlton Davis do? Intercepts the ball. Now, granted, we gave it back, but you know how the rest of that game went. I don't got to go any further. Jared Goff, that game against Jacksonville this past Sunday, he went 24 for 29, 412 yards, four touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating of 158.3. That is just an absolutely phenomenal way to bounce back from what was arguably the worst game of his career. Just a way to say, like, you know what? I've been in the MVP conversation. I'm going to stay in that conversation. I'm not going to let one game define me. And that's exactly what he did. The team had 196 rushing yards, only allowing Jacksonville to have 41 rushing yards, which is just, again, absolutely astounding as to how that even happened. And then 449 passing yards. Hendon Hooker got some passing yards in there too, versus 129 coming from the Jacksonville side. And the main story of this team right now, in my honest opinion, has been the defense more so than the offense. You know, the offense is the one putting up 52 points, 47 points and everything. But this isn't happening without the defense. The Houston game does not happen without the defense. If Aiden Hutchinson was still healthy, I'm not even kidding you, the Lions would have 3 defensive players in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. Aiden Hutchinson would obviously be the runaway favorite. I mean, he's still up there in top 5 of stats, and he's been out ever since the Dallas game. That's just how dominant he was at the beginning of the year. But then we got arguably what we now have, the greatest safety tandem in the entire league with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. Those two are absolute animals. They are ball hawks. I mean, everyone saw the hit that Branch had on Evan Ingram on Sunday? That was a demolishing hit. And then Kirby Joseph again with another interception, who's now leading the league with 7 interceptions. This doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. We all know the old saying, defense wins championships. And, you know, the story of last season was, okay, the offense is doing everything. You know, we made it to the NFC Championship game, but there were just leaky holes in our secondary. Our pass rush wasn't the greatest. But yet here we are now. Top 5 defense, top 2 offense. I couldn't tell you who was the number 1 offense right now because I saw that we were ranked second. And I'm like, that shouldn't even be possible. We have a point differential of plus 159. I can't name a better offense better than Detroit's right now. But that, again, that's been the story with this team, has been shockingly the defense, the massive turnaround that we've had compared to last year. And the one thing that was definitely the biggest focus, the biggest key that the front office wanted this year was to get a revamped secondary. Everybody saw what happened in the NFC Championship game. Lions were up. I don't need to talk about the rest and cry about it because let me tell you, that was the worst month of my life. That was the worst month of my life. But the front office saw that. They're like, we got to fix this now. Now, the pass rush, they signed Marcus Davenport. Very questionable signing, and for all the right reason, because once again, dude's out for the season. He just can't stay healthy, which once again led to, okay, so now he's just got to rely on Aiden Hutchinson. And then Aiden Hutchinson went down with that devastating leg injury. So then the question then became, can this Lions team even hold up? You know, we had Super Bowl aspirations coming into this season. And I'll tell you, that Cowboys game that Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg, the game was over. The Cowboys gave up. And I remember not being excited about that win. Like, the final score again was 47 to, I believe it was 9. Whatever Dallas scored, which was barely anything. But it was like 47 to 9. I think it was 9. And I was just like, I remember turning to my fiance and I'm like, I'm not even excited about this win because that injury was just so devastating. But then what did the Lions do after that? They have not lost. And I gotta tell you, I had the Green Bay game as a loss. I had the Houston game as a loss. That's just me being a realist. I know what this team has been in the past. These were games that on paper, I didn't think they should have won. The Green Bay game was a monsoon of a game. The Lions historically do not play well in bad weather, especially with Jared Goff. Everybody likes to say, oh, he turns into Jared Goof when he plays in bad weather. That didn't happen. Green Bay, in their own house, forgot how to play football. That was the reality of it. Jordan Love with that interception to, again, Kirby Joseph. I don't know what in the hell that man was thinking. And then the Houston game. The Houston game was the complete, and I heard somebody say this. The Houston game was the complete opposite of what the NFC Championship game was. Lions down at halftime. It's over. But then they came back and smacked Houston in the mouth. And I heard during halftime, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, he did say, let's do the reverse of the NFC Championship game, and that's exactly what happened. Jared Goff still threw 2 picks in the second half, but that man is the reason why they won that game. Not even just the defense. Not even just the defense. The defense, yes, held Houston to no points in the second half. Credit Carlton Davis. But we don't win that game without Jared Goff. And that's what I want to go into next. Is Jared Goff still being an MVP candidate? And the reality is, yes, even with the 5 interception game against Houston, I think he's still in the running. I have Lamar Jackson as the front runner currently for MVP. Credit to that man. Lamar Jackson is playing lights out. But we can't take Jared Goff out of that, especially when you look at that Houston game and you can really only credit maybe 2 interceptions at most to Jared, with that being Jared Goff's fault. The Hail Mary one, the league shouldn't count Hail Mary interceptions as a stat. They really shouldn't. 2 of his interceptions were tipped. One of them was an absolutely freak play by a Houston defender. The other 2 I could credit to Jared Goff, misplacing the ball, receiver running a wrong route. But Jared Goff's stats for this year, and I'm going to compare the 2 other, who I believe are the 2 other candidates for MVP. Jared Goff currently this season, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 2,492 yards with a 112.1 passer rating. You throw in Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills 18 touchdowns, 5 picks, 2,543 yards, 98.2 rating. Lamar Jackson, my current front runner for MVP, 25 touchdowns, 3 picks, 2,876 yards, and a 117.3 rating. Lamar and Josh, I'm not going to include their rushing stats because obviously we know what they can do with their legs. Jared Goff is not a runner. Everybody knows that. But with that alone, everybody then talks about, okay, so why is Jared Goff being still in the conversation? Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson can do things that Jared Goff can't. Jared Goff's not a runner. We got to look at how have these games played out. The Lions are currently 9-1. Their only loss being against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a game in which the offense, if you look at the stat sheet, you would think that the Lions absolutely dismantled the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That wasn't the final score. It is what it was. The red zone efficiency was the worst I've ever seen. And that game was just what it was. Then you look at the Buffalo Bills. Their current record, they're at 8-2 with losses against the Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans in back-to-back weeks. When Buffalo played Baltimore, they got absolutely dismantled by Baltimore. Lamar Jackson went crazy that game. Then you look at the Baltimore Ravens record of 7-4. Losses coming against the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Browns, and the Steelers this past Sunday. You got to take those games into account in the sense of what have these players done in the big moments? For example, you take Jared Goff, and a lot of comments were being made during the game of why is Jared Goff throwing turf balls? You just saw him just throwing balls into the ground, and even I'm like, what is this man doing? But then after the game, looking back at it again, you realize he doesn't want to make another mistake. And even though that what I deem 3 of those interceptions not being his fault, I would like to imagine in the mindset of a quarterback, he doesn't want to have another pick to his name. And I don't blame him. So when he saw nothing there, he just threw it at the feet of whoever and just moved on to the next play. Lived to play another down. But again, like I said, the Lions do not win that Houston game without Jared Goff stepping up. The defense was doing everything they could to keep Houston in check, and they did. But the reality is the Lions still had to score points, and Jared Goff was the man to do it. 5 picks, doesn't matter. He led them. You look at Josh Allen. Now, I think Josh Allen definitely boosted his resume this past Sunday with finally a loss on Kansas City's record. I'm not even going to get into Kansas City right now. I think they're the biggest frauds in the entire league, but I'm not going to go into that. Losses against Baltimore, loss against Texans, and that wasn't back-to-back weeks. So 2 weeks in a row. I'm not going to pretend I sit here and know everything about Josh Allen, but I think he's played well enough to be considered an MVP candidate, especially with how Buffalo sealed the game this past Sunday. 4th down, this man decides to run, seals the game, game over. Lamar Jackson is where it gets tricky. You look at Lamar Jackson's stats, and between the 3 candidates, Lamar is the best. Again, 25 touchdowns, 3 picks, 2876 yards, 117.3 passer rating. But you got to look at why is Baltimore's record 7-4? Especially with 2 of those losses being against the Raiders and the Browns. Now, the Browns game, you can chalk it up to, okay, maybe Baltimore's defense didn't know what Cleveland was going to throw at them. It was their first game with Jameis Winston. That could have been a toss-up. Fine. But that does not explain the loss to the Raiders. And I'm not saying the loss against the Raiders was Lamar's fault, because, again, Lamar didn't allow Las Vegas to come back and beat him. But what Lamar didn't do, he did not step up and win that game. He had an opportunity to. He did not do it. Now, I got to still give credit where credit is due. Lamar, the Ravens have had a lot of close games this year, and yes, they don't win those games without Lamar. That is also the reality. But this past game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this is where you can really kind of nitpick at Lamar, and you can even bring the playoff conversation into it as to when he doesn't step up. Lamar likes to play lights out against everybody else in the league not named the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's a problem. Arguably your biggest rival in the entire league, and you cannot step up to the plate and beat them. That is a massive issue, especially when you can look at Jared Goff. You looked at what happened in the Minnesota game. You know, Minnesota was still undefeated at that time. Jared Goff, in the final minute of that game, led his team down to give Jake Bates a tremendous chance to win that game, which he did. You look at the Green Bay game where, again, monsoon-like weather, Jared Goff still led that team to a win. Look at the Houston game. 5 picks, doesn't matter. He led that team to a win. Jake Bates, yes, but the Jake Bates kick doesn't happen without Jared Goff leading them there. So you look at these 3, and I still think Jared Goff is very well in that conversation because, again, you had a lot of people willing to write him off after the Houston game. I think it was on the Rich Eisen show, somebody was saying Jared Goff is a joke. You can't be an MVP candidate with a game in which you had 5 picks, not looking at the context of the game. Fine, whatever. You had a dude on a sports show this morning saying that Jared Goff is a civilian quarterback compared to quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and that I think that's just wrong. In my opinion, I could go off about how wrong that is because, yes, Patrick is undeniable talent. Lamar, he's probably going to win the MVP. I know I'm going on about MVP. Lamar is still probably going to win it. But to just discredit Jared Goff because he's not a runner, he's not flashy, you don't need to be a runner and flashy to get things done. Tom Brady has won numerous MVPs. Peyton Manning has won numerous MVPs. All they do is just sit there and sling the ball. And that's what this Lions offense is doing. They are putting up dominant numbers. And once again, you can credit the entire culture with that. Look at Zadarius Smith coming in from Cleveland. This man wanted to be here. He wanted to be here. Somebody showed me a picture of what he wore walking. You know how you get those pregame fit pics going into the game. His last game with Cleveland, that man was wearing Honolulu blue on his pregame walk-in. He wanted to be here. I remember the morning of the trade, he tweeted out and then deleted SMH, shake my head. And I was like, oh boy, something wrong is happening. The trade happened, and then we're thinking, okay, what was the SMH about? Does he actually not want to be here? No, he was mad that the trade didn't happen fast enough. That is literally what he said. He wanted to be in Detroit. And what does this man do when he walks in with his pregame fit this past Sunday? He is wearing a Rasheed Wallace Pistons jersey. And we all know what Rasheed Wallace did for the Pistons back in 2004. That man wanted to be here. You saw also on the Houston game, you know, the Mike and Al, they talked about it on the broadcast. He is there basically giving his input in with the D-line. He is very much a part. He was very much a part of that team, even though he didn't play. And once again, credit to Dan Campbell, credit to the coaching staff for allowing that man to essentially get his bye week. Because when he came in this past Sunday against Jacksonville, I wanted to run through a brick wall seeing that man come out the tunnel. He was hype. He was excited. And that made me excited. That made me think I wanted to run out the tunnel. And again, got to give credit where credit is due. You can't win on culture alone. I understand that. Everybody's saying that, oh, you can't just have good vibes and expect a Super Bowl. You can't expect a title off of good vibes. But this team is not half of what they are without the culture that has been set by Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, and the coaching staff. I am phenomenally proud. I'm now proud to be a Lions fan. I'm wearing my Lions merch at work, and I have people asking me if I'm a new Lions fan. That has never happened at all. Like, I'm like, me, a new Lions fan? Like, no, I've been suffering since the 0-16 season, which was unfortunately the first year that I cared about the Lions. It was 0-16. I'm like, Dad, why haven't they won a game? But that's besides the point. That is besides the point. I live in the Chicagoland area. I live amongst the very numerous depressed Chicago Bears fans. Nothing was better than this past Sunday of having the Lions game on the bottom TV we have at work, and then the Bears-Packers game in the middle, and then you see the blocked kick, and you see every middle-aged older man just be absolutely devastated. I work in a shoe store, and I just remember an older gentleman audibly dropping the F-bomb in front of a bunch of kids as soon as he saw that block click. It was the greatest thing ever. I was wearing my Lions hoodie. Everybody was giving me a nasty look. But even the customers I talked to, they couldn't believe. They're like, hey, we're rooting for you. And, shout out to those Chicago fans that are looking to look past the rivalry and just be proud of what this team is accomplishing. Because we really are now the new America's team. Dallas, Detroit is America's team. There is no reason why anybody other than Minnesota fans should want this team to win a Super Bowl. We have been the team that everybody looked at, are like, oh, bye week, easy week, practice run. And now we're here I'm taking pride in the fact that I'm looking at every single power ranking out there from ESPN, NFL, whoever, and my Detroit Lions are sitting at the number one spot. Credit to the culture. Credit to the people that want to be here, because I can't even wait for this offseason. Yes, the expectation is Super Bowl, but the whole Darius Smith trade just showed that people want to be here, and I don't expect that to stop anytime soon. I fully expect some big name free agent wanting to come here, and we're going to make it happen. Now, obviously, every good thing has to end, and before we get to the break, I just want to touch on this. The current line coaching staff, credit Ben Johnson, credit Aaron Glenn, credit everybody, even Calvin Shepard, Tanner Engstrand. Some of these guys aren't going to be here next year. We got to win it this year with them. They have been with us through the beginning, especially Aaron Glenn. I remember last year, the year before, Aaron Glenn in Detroit, he had a target on his head. Everybody was like, this defense is horrible. You cost us a couple games. What are you doing? But they're not looking at the context of what players is he supposed to use. We didn't have dogs other than Aiden Hutchinson on defense. And now you're seeing the benefits. The Houston Texans game 2 weeks ago, that was Aaron Glenn's audition for the league. That is a game that we have definitively lost Aaron Glenn to a head coaching job. I fully expect Aaron Glenn to go to the New Orleans Saints, if I'm being honest. That's where Dan Campbell came from. That's where Aaron Glenn came from as far as coaching is concerned. I fully expect the Saints to go after Aaron Glenn. He's good as gone. Ben Johnson, he's a mixed bag. I fully expected him to be gone 2 years ago. Didn't happen. I was 99% sure he was gone last year. Didn't happen. He wanted to run it back. I'm praying to God that this man wants to be like a Josh McDaniels and just keep running it back with Dan Campbell, just like how McDaniels did with Bill Belichick. I'm really hoping, and I can honestly see it. It looks like Ben Johnson really doesn't have an interest in being a head coach. I think he just likes being the man behind the scenes, making all these cool trick-ass plays and making it happen. I fully expect a Penei Sewell touchdown by the end of the year. I expect him to throw one and catch one. But if Ben Johnson were to go, I really do expect the Chicago Bears to make a strong push for him. Lord knows that offense needs a lot of help. Um, I fully expect Ben Johnson to go to the Bears. Tanner Engstrand, he is the passing game coordinator. I could see. I saw a report this morning that he's a name that's being talked about amongst NFL circles. I don't know where he's going. I could maybe see Jacksonville because I'm honestly quite surprised that Jacksonville didn't fire Doug Peterson after this past Sunday's game. But I can see Tanner going to Jacksonville. We got a lot good going on right now. We're going to take a quick break. We're talking Red Wings and Tigers next. Can't wait to go more into ownership. You are watching Gritsville USA on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all things sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter, at any time. Be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, guys, welcome back to Gritsville USA. Once again, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Right now, I do want to transition right into the Detroit Red Wings. Now, I kind of want to make this a segment also with the Tigers because I want to talk about ownership. Obviously, Chris Ilitch of the Ilitch Companies, he owns both the Red Wings and the Tigers. And again, starting off with the Red Wings, what we are seeing here in Detroit right now, it's absolutely disgusting. From what I'm going to say, that's the nicest way I can put it. This team has no spirit. They have no grit. They have no grind. I don't even know how they pulled together 7 wins this year. That just seems like even an anomaly in spite of everything. And I really do think it is a reflection of ownership. And I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to start with the Red Wings. Now, what Chris Ilitch has done, there's been a mentality of we're going to kind of wait for the younger kids to come up, the prospects we're so excited about. And we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait to spend. Now, obviously, hockey has a salary cap compared to baseball. Baseball does not. But what we're doing here is completely idiotic. I mean, I understand that we brought in the great Steve Yzerman, and I love Steve. I'm always gonna love Steve Yzerman. And as much as I hate to say it, he's got to go. And I don't think it's going to get to a point to where ownership is going to let him go because, again, we're talking about Detroit Red Wings legend Steve Yzerman. Why would we let him go? He's the golden boy. He's the golden child. There's no reason to do that. We got to give him time. 6 years, I think, is a lot of time. And I understand that he inherited a damn mess from Ken Holland and all those contracts that he signed players to. Like, I get it. We just stopped paying Johan Franzen like 2 years ago. Okay, cool. But it's not like the Detroit Red Wings are the only team to have been left in a bad spot and have needed to go through a rebuild. A lot of other teams have, and across all of sports. Why is it that we're taking 6 years? Why is it we brought in the Tampa Bay Lightning GM Steve Yzerman, who helped create the teams that won numerous cups for them, but yet we are here waiting for a single playoff game? And yes, I understand. We were so close last year, but so close doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. The Red Wings last year, they had that remarkable winning streak. Dylan Larkin got hurt, and then the team died, essentially. Team lost all spirit. Your captain isn't there, and I understand, but that's where the coaching has to get involved, and I'll get into Lalone in a second. But then, if anybody here pays attention to the Red Wings, you saw how that season ended. They were clawing their way back. They had amazing literal last second game winners to win absolutely necessary games. But with a team with playoff aspirations, you shouldn't let it come down to game 82 and hope that Washington loses and that Philadelphia wins, because at that point you're not going to get far anyway. And maybe that's what would have happened if the Red Wings would have made the playoffs. They could have just been trounced easily. It wasn't inspiring hockey all up until literally the last week of the season when they're like, okay, yeah, let's see if we can actually do this. And again, what we're seeing this year is it's horrible. Our biggest offseason moves shouldn't have been re-signing. God, how old is he now? Patrick Kane. And I love Patrick Kane. Now that he's a Red Wings, not when he was a Blackhawk, but now that he's a Red Wing. But that couldn't be your biggest signing. Or re-signing, I should say. You signed Vladimir Tarasenko, and that man has done absolutely nothing. He was supposed to be your key piece depth scorer, and I don't even think he has a single goal. Forgive me if I'm wrong, because I have not been paying attention to the Wings as much, but I have not been seeing his name come across my screen whenever the Red Wings decide to actually shoot the puck and score. I've not seen his name. We traded away Wallman to San Jose, and we're like, okay, like this could be, Steve moving pieces around. Maybe we're gonna get Trouba from the Rangers. We're gonna get somebody in here to play defensively with Seider. Nope, we just traded away arguably our second best defensive player for no reason. And I don't even remember what we got back from San Jose. It could have been a prospect, a pick. I don't remember. It was atrocious. I was excited because I'm like, okay, if we're getting rid of Wallman, something good is coming our way, and it just never did. I can't speak much more about the Red Wings because I'm going to want to flip this table. The feed will end way sooner than I wanted to. I can't. I can't. I was asked if I wanted to go to a Red Wings game next week, and I actually had to tell myself, do I actually want to spend money on this? And currently the answer is no, but knowing me, I'll probably change my mind at the last second. Who knows? But again, ownership with the Red Wings, they're basically preaching, it's okay, be complacent, we can wait. We can wait for Palika to come up. We can wait for Costa to come up. And this is also the issue that I'm going to have with the Detroit Tigers. And again, I'll get to the Tigers in like 30 seconds here. Let me just finish off with the Red Wings. I want this team to be good. I even remember I tweeted out at the end of last season how I watched the 2008 Cup. I watched the 2002 Cup. And I remember saying last year, this might have been my favorite Red Wings team. And because I was very proud of the fact that they clawed back and won. But the way that we are going now, the way that the offseason went, there's nothing to be excited about with this team. I don't see anything changing. I think even if you fire Derek Lalone, which I think they should do, it's not going to fix anything. If anything, that's just going to make the team worse, which I don't know how worse you can get right now. But who are you going to bring in to replace him is the question. This team is uninspired. They don't have a voice in the locker room right now telling them to bust their ass and get moving. I think they should fire Lalonde. No, I don't know what the solution is. I personally think they should let go of Yzerman, but I know that's a wasted conversation because that's never going to happen. Now, moving on to the Detroit Tigers. I am very happy to say that tonight we had Tarik Skubal winning the American League Cy Young. Shout out to him first and foremost. More than deserved. He played absolutely lights out baseball last year. Unfortunate that he couldn't play lights out the last game of the season. But other than that, it was a unanimous win, as it should be. You're not going to give the Cy Young to a closer. I'm sorry. Class A throws for more innings. I mean, you can have a conversation, sure, but he's not going to win the Cy Young. Tarik Skubal, the one bright spot, and this is where I'm now going to get upset once again with ownership. Detroit Tigers had a miraculous run the last 2 months of the regular season. This team was, by all means, DOA. They were dead. They were flatlining, done. Then out of nowhere, okay, yeah, they're picking up wins. They're getting wins here, getting wins there. September comes around. Why haven't they stopped winning? Mid-September, you're like, holy shit, we got something going on here. End of September, we're a playoff team. Look at that. And we had to go up against the Houston Astros. We ended the Astros dynasty, I'm so happy to say. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it's nice to finally see a different team in the ALCS other than Houston. But then you got to the Cleveland series, and obviously the season ended how it did with that. But you ask Scott Harris, the president of baseball operations for Detroit, and it pretty much sounds like, oh, we're about to run this back. And I'm like, what? We're going to do what now? Oh, no, we're going to run it back. We don't foresee ourselves making a big signing. I mean, obviously, the Tigers were never going to get like Juan Soto or anything, but at least get me Bregman or somebody. But Scott Harris is like, you can tell he's annoyed with the payroll question because I think he's kind of running out of ways to tell us, listen, it's not happening. We're going to wait for Max Clark, McGonigal, all these kids to come up, and that's just beyond infuriating. Especially when you realize that he also said, oh, yeah, Javier Baez is going to be a very important part to our team next year. And once again, I don't want to talk about Baez because I'm going to flip this table if I do. But you look, once again, at ownership. Baseball, there's no salary cap. You can spend whatever money you want. Hell, it looks like the Dodgers are going to get Juan Soto, maybe. So it's like, obviously, you can poop money out your butt and let whatever happen, but the Detroit Tigers are just refusing to do so. You finally got people in the stadium last year. You got people at Comerica Park. You got people to show up and care about the product that was there. Now, mind you, the product wasn't like, oh my God, we got a star player not named Tarik Skubal lighting it up. But it was because it was a miraculous run. Again, it was must-see TV. You didn't want to face the Tigers. Now, yeah, their season ended against Cleveland, but Cleveland had to fight till the very end just to get it out of that series. But that's not sustainable baseball. That's not a way to win. You can have pitching chaos and expect the same thing to happen. Especially if you are going to bring Javier Baez back on this team, and yeah, it's just an automatic loss every time that he touches the diamond. I don't understand what we're waiting for. I truly do. I'm now speaking just out of pure passion that I have for this team. I don't know what we're waiting for. Why do we want to wait for Max Clark to come in? Why do we want to wait for Kevin McGonigal to come up? We have something special now. You have Riley Green. You have Parker Meadows. You have Terry Skubal, who, by the way, apparently the Tigers lowballed him on an offer. And I'm like, well, that's great news. That's a good way to start the offseason, huh? We have all these pieces now. Why don't you want to go out there and sign an actual first baseman or an actual third baseman? Because I get that we only got really a sample size of him, but Jace Young is not. I don't think he's the answer. Shout out Trey Sweeney. I don't think he's the future shortstop of the team, but man, did he held his own. He was definitely better than Baez. Let me tell you that. But we got to spend money to get people here. It can't be that the Tigers' biggest acquisition in the last couple seasons now, it can't be Matt Vierling. And I'm not dissing on Matt Vierling at all. Phenomenal player. But you're telling me that's been the biggest piece that we got? Why won't you go spend money on Alex Bregman? Why won't you go spend money on a Christian Walker? We got something special now. Chris Fetter is turning literal janitors into lights out pitchers. What are we doing? Why can't we get Bass to help support this team? Why do we got to wait for the kids to come up? And mind you, prospects don't always work. So we're betting on unknown pieces. Like Chris Hill is just selling his soul to make sure that we wait for these kids to come up, and they could easily amount to nothing. Being the number 1, number 3 pick in the MLB draft doesn't equate to anything. Look at Casey Mize. Casey Mize was a number 1 pick. Disaster. Look at Spencer Torkelson. And I know Torkelson is it's a bit of a soft spot. People get very touchy with it. People are like, oh, you gotta wait. He was a college bat. Why are we waiting? Look at Wyatt Langford of the Rangers. He was a college bat, and he came in and he lit up the second half of the season. So what are we doing here? Why are we drafting Max Clark? And no disrespect to Max Clark. I actually have really high hopes for the kid. But what are we doing? Why aren't we getting pieces now? And I think, there's been chance to sell the team last year. Obviously, that kind of stopped during the miraculous run. But Chris Ilitch, I think, is he's more concerned about getting air-conditioned seats at Comerica Park that the average fan like me is never going to sit in. So it's like, again, why are you so willing to spend money on these seats, but not the product you're putting on the field? Why are you all of a sudden going to start raising prices for these seats, but where's that money going to? Little Caesars? No. And it's infuriating. I could go on. I'm a bit scrambled right now because that's just how they have me. That's how Chris Ilitch has me right now. My mind is just scrambled when it comes to talking about the Tigers and the Red Wings. It used to be 10, 15 years ago, where everything was flipped. The Lions were, oh my God, we never talk about them. But the Tigers and the Red Wings were everything to the city of Detroit. Everything. You had the miraculous early 2010 runs of the Tigers. Still can't believe we never got a ring out of that. But then you had just the Red Wings being in the playoffs every year for nearly 25 plus seasons. I think it got to 27. Forgive me again if I'm wrong. And then it just flipped. The Lions are now the darling of the city, and the Tigers and the Red Wings are the teams nobody wants to talk about. It's disheartening. It's saddening. And it starts at ownership. If the old man were here, if Mike Ilitch was still alive, he would not stand for this at all. Mike Ilitch would probably open the pocketbook, he'll open the checkbook for Juan Soto right now. I guarantee it. If Mr. Ilitch was alive, he'd be like, I will pay Juan Soto $800 million to be here. The city is in desperate need of a star to go alongside Tarek Skubal, who apparently we might lose in a couple years because, again, ownership is being cheap with him. The dude was going to win the Cy Young. He officially did tonight, but yet we're deciding to be cheap with the only star we got. Great. Super excited. Once again, going to still touch on the Pistons and the 2 college teams of the state. We're going to take a quick break. You are watching Gritsville USA right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, guys, welcome back once again to Gritsville USA right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Now, I do want to talk a bit about the Pistons. I'm excited to be a Pistons fan again. I'm not going to lie. Like, I know right now they're 7-9, but they're 7-9 compared to last year where, it took Monty Williams and his team, 29 damn games to get to their fourth win. It's progress. Like, this team is now playing inspired basketball. Jaden Ivey is finally unleashed. I don't know what Monty did to this man last season, but it was clear as day that hiring Bickerstaff has changed him. Jaden Ivey has been unleashed. Cade is great. He's still got to work on his closing, but he's been doing phenomenal. And, currently they're sitting at 7-9, but this team could very easily be 9-7 if it wasn't for the fact that Brandon Miller hit a game winner at the last second, or Ron Holland, our first round draft pick this past season. If you could at least hit one free throw to beat Milwaukee, this team could very well be 9-7. And the Eastern Conference right now, they are looking a bit on the weaker side. I very much expect the Pistons to be a play-in team. I even think, and I might be crazy for saying this, I think they could be past the play-in, if I'm being completely honest. You look at the standings, I mean, the 76ers are dead. They're a dead franchise right now. They are just an absolute disaster. They can't seem to get it together. Milwaukee's starting off a bit slow. Indiana's starting off a bit slow. Same with the Heat. And the Pistons have a very favorable schedule currently right now. And I think it's very, very possible for the Pistons to get a legitimate playoff spot and not be fighting or playing in the play-in. They're currently, I believe they're 2-0 right now in the NBA Cup, the midseason tournament. I don't believe the Bulls game was a NBA Cup game. I could be wrong, but the Pistons are looking good. They're looking promising. You are finally getting the confidence in these kids again, which was something that hasn't been there the last couple seasons. And sky's the limit, in all honesty. I know that when the Pistons come to Chicago, because once again I live in the Chicagoland area, I'm hoping to catch a game, and I'll actually be proud to wear my Pistons stuff once again. It's been a long time coming. No playoff wins since 2008. I mean, I know they made a couple playoff series, I think, with the Blake Griffin Pistons, but they couldn't win a game against Milwaukee and whoever else they played. But I'm excited. The Pistons have had a very good return. I think there's still stuff they need to work on. We definitely gotta try and get a backup point guard. But the Pistons they're just exciting. I'm gonna be honest. I'm still trying to catch up myself with the Pistons, because I've just been so turned off from them the last few years, and now I'm having to kind of reacquaint myself with the franchise. So, admittedly, don't have much to say other than, okay, yeah, they're fun to watch again. They keep it up, I'll definitely, start wearing my Pistons stuff out and about. Now, enough with the Pistons. We got to talk college football. We got two very important games for these franchises, for these college teams coming up. We're going to talk about U of M first, of course. But it's been a very tough season to be just a college football fan in general out here in Michigan. Obviously, U of M was coming off of the national title. Whether you think it's legit or not, that's up to you. I don't care. A title's a title. The NCAA isn't taking it away. They took away other stuff for, I think, less, and they're not taking away Michigan's thing. But Michigan's off to a disastrous start in the Sharon Moore era. Currently sitting at 5-5, and you're at the point now where you're basically praying that they can actually beat Northwestern just so they can literally make the Quick Lane Bowl, which I think is tremendously sad. And I don't want to say a downgrade was to be expected. Yes, you lost Jim Harbaugh, you lost Jesse Minter, you lost a lot of that coaching staff that has been here, that have built what they built. But I didn't expect this season to be 5-5 bad, and the fact that Sharon Moore just decided to completely neglect bringing in a quarterback from the transfer portal. So now you have Davis Warren and Alex Orji trying their best to throw a football. Jack Tuttle, I didn't even know this. Jack Tuttle apparently retired mid-season. He just gave up on the team, basically. So it's Michigan football's in a great spot right now. Once again, they are playing Northwestern this Saturday. They are, I think, if you're into the betting thing, I think they are currently sitting at a 10.5 point favorite, which, is pretty good. Michigan has been not really favored much the past couple weeks. I think even with Michigan State, I think they were only favored by 3.5. But Michigan needs this win. They need this win, and I don't know if I'm being honest with you, I don't know if it's more embarrassing for them to win or lose, because obviously, they're not getting past Ohio State last week of the season. That's just not happening. An act of God would need to happen. But it's just embarrassing to say, oh man, we really got to beat Northwestern if we want to make the Bahama Ramen Bowl. What? You just won the national title last year, and now you're hoping you can beat Northwestern so you can go to the Quick Lane Bowl, play at Ford Field. Great. We're have some pride, be upset. And admittedly, a lot of U of M fans are upset, but a lot of U of M fans are also choosing to ignore what is happening. We got our title, we're good. Have pride in your school, man. I'm not a U of M graduate, but have pride. Obviously, though, they did win the in-state battle against Michigan State, and Michigan State right now is in kind of a worse spot if you really want to think about it. Michigan State currently right now they are sitting at, I believe, 4-6. Not a place you want to be at. Not a place you want to be at. And I understand, yes, you have Jonathan Smith being first-year coach, but this man looked completely unprepared to be in Big Ten football, and he basically admitted so after the Michigan game. Basically saying, oh, I had no idea this game was such a big deal. Well, you got smacked in the mouth and you found out. Michigan State this week, they are playing Purdue, which if you're playing against Purdue, you are expected to beat Purdue. Purdue currently are sitting at 1-9, and you gotta win that game. You gotta win that game. You lose against Purdue, I'm sorry, I have no respect for you. Purdue is what Rutgers was the last 10 years. Speaking of Rutgers, Michigan State plays Rutgers last game of the season, but that's besides the point. You got to beat Purdue. You got to beat Purdue. And that's all I can really say about Michigan State. I mean, I didn't expect them to be great. I didn't really expect a bowl game out of them, but I also think they're doing better than what I expected. I had them pegged at finishing the season 4-8. They're already at the 4 games now. All they got to do is just win one more at least, and they beat my expectation. I think they could beat Rutgers. It just depends on which Aiden Childs is going to show up. And Aiden Childs, this kid has so much talent. He needs to learn to not just turn the ball over. Hang on to the ball. Actually open your eyes and see where you're throwing to. He has way too much talent to let all this happen. And I believe another year, they'll get it together. I think Michigan State will have I personally think Michigan State has better upside than U of M for next year, if I'm being 100% honest with you. It's just I don't think things are looking good for Michigan. But again, besides the point, Michigan State is looking to miss the bowl game this year. Again, they should beat Purdue. You don't beat Purdue, you got a lot more problems that one offseason is going to fix. I do think the Rutgers game can be a toss-up. I think it can. I don't think Rutgers is a high favorite in that game. I think it could be close, especially since they are playing at Spartan Stadium. Hopefully the fans bring it in that game. Bring some pride back to the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan's been going through it with the college sports, especially in football. We would always at least have one team be really good. I don't remember the last time where we had both be bad. So it's a rare space to be in. It's like the Michigan State rivalry has definitely taken a bit of a pause, because you can't really be like, your team sucks, and it's like, oh yeah, well, so do yours. So right now the war is at a standstill. It's at a standstill right now. But I'm hoping that one of these teams can bring it next year. I would like to see some pride back for that next year. But yeah, that's what we got going on collegiately at the moment. I know, I'm super excited to look more into, Grand Valley, the Ferris State, Central Michigan, Western, Eastern. And doing this gives me a great opportunity to learn more about the sports that I love with the teams that I basically grew up by. I currently live out in the Chicagoland area, like I had mentioned, but I'm so excited to look more into that. Now, the last thing I want to touch on before we finish up, I know I've gone way longer than I expected to, but I do want to finish off with the Lions one more time. Want to just look ahead to this Sunday's game against Indianapolis. The game is in Indianapolis. I'm getting very careful with talking about, oh yeah, this is a for sure win. I'm getting very careful. The Lions are approaching the treacherous territory of some team's going to be pissed off at what they're doing, and they're going to do the exact same thing to them. And football really isn't any given Sunday sport. I mean, again, I mentioned it earlier, but the Baltimore Ravens losing to the Las Vegas Raiders, anything can happen in this league. Surely, I don't think the Lions are going to blow out Indianapolis. I don't see that happening. I expect a win. Josh Downs of the Colts, he thinks that the game's going to be way closer than what a lot of people currently think it's going to be. And I'm like, okay, yeah, have that optimism. I still think the Lions are going to win 28-13, but it's not going to be a 50-6 beatdown. But the Lions should win this game this Sunday. And, moving forward, I am trying really hard. I'm trying to be realist and optimist. I'm optimistic the Lions could literally finish the season 16-1. I think they got a couple more losses coming up. I really don't know against who, if I'm being honest. Probably Chicago for one of them. I think the Chicago, not the Thanksgiving game. I'll be there, so they better not lose. But the game in Chicago, I think, will be a loss, depending on what weather Chicago brings. I could very much see the 49ers game being one. I think they could potentially lose the rematch, especially if San Francisco is getting healthier and, they themselves are trying to make a last-minute push for the playoffs. The injuries definitely bit them in the ass, but they're starting to get people back, especially McCaffrey. As we all know, he's back. But the Lions, as far as this Sunday is concerned, I'm not worried about it. I know I'll be at work. It'll be on the TV, and I'll just check in every now and then. Who knows? Maybe by halftime again, it'll be 28-6 or something. I don't expect the game to be close, but I could be wrong again, and I can't be mad at it. It's very weird seeing this season. I've been so fortunate to be a Lions fan. That's just a weird thing to come out of my mouth because I've never once said that in my life. Like, oh, I'm so fortunate. But, numerous 35-plus point beatdowns. I don't think a single team in the NFL this season has one where they beat an opponent by 35, and the Lions have 3. So, I don't know. It's crazy. But, hey, man, listen, I am, again, super excited to be part of the IE Sports Radio family. Again, shout out to Larry for giving me the opportunity for this. And, man, I'm excited, I'm excited. So let me say this before I go. Once again, you have been watching Gritsville USA on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, my name is Christian Harvey. I'm going to be so excited to be with you every Wednesday night. Thank you for bearing with me tonight. Obviously, the first show, trying to figure everything out on my end. Larry's been helping me on the other side. So, Larry, shout out to you. Very much appreciate it. But, man, I am so excited for this. This has been a small dream of mine wanting to talk about sports. And trust me, I promise I'm going to get better. Like, you can probably see me sweating a little bit, working out the nerves. But, hey, man, the more I do this, man, I'm just amped up. I am amped up. So excited to share this with you guys. Shout out Larry. Shout out my fiance for supporting me. Shout out my family. They don't even know I'm doing this yet. I'm just going to drop this like a bomb on them. Like, hey, check this out. But once again, follow me at Gritsville_IESR on X. Also, you can follow me personally on C_Alexander_97. And then, follow IE Sports Radio. Follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. You can also find us at IESportsRadio.com. We have so many other great shows from all across the country with other people like me just talking about the teams that they love. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. But, man, again, my name is Christian Harvey. Peace out. Go Lions. Love y'all.